updates before we open up to the public?
Sure, just a little bit on, if you've seen the warnings in the newspaper, why so many public hearings and the purpose of tonight's hearing. So this is the second of 4 public hearings. The town must hold 2 and the village must hold 2. The town's first hearing was Thursday, February 12th. Tonight is the village's first meeting. The proposal that you all have in front of you was developed by a committee comprised of members from the select board, some of the trustees, members from the public, and town council. In addition to having the hard copies here, we also have some online. And you will see that some of the pieces of the proposal have some funny language in it. We are guided by Vermont state statutes, and so that's what you're seeing in parts of the proposal. Tonight's hearing is to gather information and to answer questions as best we can. No decisions will be made tonight. All comments, questions, concerns are being recorded, and we are preparing answers to any of the questions that you bring forward so that we can then report back at the next hearing. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
The vote is on Tuesday, Tuesday, March 24th.
Okay. Any questions? Nobody? About the merger?
Please come up to the mic. Thank you.
So can you explain to us what positives and what negatives will happen when we merge together? I know we're going to put together a bunch of different, ordinances and different rules, but I don't understand the good and the bad for each one because I'm an accountant, so I understand the accounting. There'll be some things you could, allocations you're probably going to have to do. That'd be really nice. But there's always like a negative or something unexpected that's going to happen. One of the things I heard before this all happened was that at least over a year ago, there used to be grants available for villages. And most of those are federal, which are gone now. But if there are state grants for villages, will that include us for applying for any of those?
I'll address that first question in regards to the grants. It's my understanding we have a grant liaison coordinator down in the office. It's our understanding that it actually makes it better for us. We have a better position for grants and awards if we merge. But I can let Ms. Wu expand on that if she'd like.
I'll speak to the first part of your question. The governance system that we have now is twofold. So when we pay bills, when we pay invoices to all of our vendors, we have staff downstairs in the municipal clerk's office that literally has to go through and account for, it is 65% for the town expenditures and 35% for the village expenditures. It is a considerable amount of time and energy that takes alone, just in the accounting piece of it. And then when payroll is done, a similar system is in place. 80% for the town in terms of salary, 20% for village employees. And so you can imagine 45 to 50 employees, full-time, part-time. It's quite an accounting feat that I witness every week for 2 days straight. And that's just for payroll. Once our municipal clerks are then, they work their magic, that whole packet has to then go across the hallway over to the town clerk's office, where there is a system of checks and balances as well. And again, they are checking on the 65-35 split for vendors, and then the 80-20 split for salary. So in my mind, internally, you will see a lot of savings that way by not having to go through those accounting hurdles on a weekly basis. And then, as we've discussed in the past, my mind goes to, okay, you're going to have all this savings in terms of that accounting. Does that mean then will people lose their jobs? Will you then, have a reduction in force? Not so. As Justin indicated, we have a part-time employee now that has done a phenomenal job in terms of garnering grants and doing all sorts of in-kind matches for recreation grants, highway grants, and we'd like to enhance that part of the office. And so, if there is some savings in terms of accounting, municipal clerk responsibilities, we'd like to take a look at what those skill sets are and put those efforts into other areas.
Also, we applied for grants for paving the access road a couple of years ago. The state awarded us a grant for the town. They didn't know the village owned part of that road, so we could not get a grant. The village could not get a grant to pave that bottom section, which then changed the time schedule because we had to come up and use our village paving money to do that, add that bottom section in, but it had to be the next year. So there's a lot of things like that where we could save. Would be more beneficial to be merged and have the grant for the whole thing.
In terms of direct, I'll just speak to a couple of other things. In terms of direct savings to the entire budget, every year we pay auditors approximately $40,000, and they have to audit the town books. They also have to then turn around and audit the village books. I imagine we will have a savings because we will not have to cut two different checks for two different processes over the course of 6 months' work. So that's I think that's a huge benefit where there is no longer a redundancy that's occurring every year.
Sure.
Would you mind speaking to what's going to happen with the electric company ownership? Like how many people are in the town versus the village now for each? And is there going to be savings here for anybody? I would expect not. Or from ownership. And I also noticed is there going to be 5 seats for the electric company now?
It will be 7.
Be 7.
Yes.
Okay, so, okay, I know that.
She's going to explain that.
I don't even know what questions to ask about that. And what's it gonna do to village taxes versus town taxes?
Great questions, thank you. We have a member of the electric department, commissioner here tonight. He also served on the merger committee with myself. I'll let him explain in detail what the electric department.
Logan Nicole, member of the Electric Light Commission, and I was on the merger committee that wrote this plan. Really, there's no change, really, with the electric or the water and sewer. The village boundary has really meant nothing to the electric department for a long time, other than that the village was the only village residents were the only eligible members of the electric commission, but the electric light department long ago expanded past the boundaries of the village. There are people in the town that are on Ludlow Electric. There are people in Proctorsville that are on Ludlow Electric. There are people in Plymouth Ludlow Electric. And so, and the same is, you know, to some extent is true with the water and sewer. There are people in the village that are not on village water. There are people in the village that are not on village sewer. And there are people that are not in the village that are on village water and village sewer. The village budget as it stands does not fund or is not in any way connected to the budget of the electric department. The electric department keeps their own books. Their costs, the costs of all their admin staff are all borne 100% out of their ratepayers. And the same is true of the water and sewer departments. They are, for all intents and purposes, they are separate entities that just happen to be village departments, but they are not in any way related to the village budgets. So I've said this a couple times in different meetings on this topic, but in writing the merger plan, our goal was, for the most part, to keep the status quo. We didn't want to make changes to the way that things currently function. The village charter has not been amended in many years, so there are a lot of things that are in the current village charter. Technically, the current law by which we're supposed to run the village that we have not done for a long time. We have just long since kind of adopted our own practices that, you know, really frankly, we're not following our own law by the way that we operate now. The electric department has some antiquated language in that way. So most of the way that the plan changes things is just updating to current actual practice. There are a couple minor changes that we are proposing with this plan, the way it's written, and you touched on some of those. The electric department, the electric commission, Jean is here too, she's also on the board. We felt that the three-member commission is really not, it's really hard to do any work. Jean and I are not really allowed to talk because we would be a quorum of the electric light board. So us having a conversation in the grocery store about anything related to the electric department is a violation of the Vermont's open meeting law. That seems silly to us. So that's why in this plan we are asking to go to 5 members that would be residents of the town of Ludlow. And then we are also asking for non-voting members from the other 2 towns that we represent, being Proctorsville and Cavendish. Those members would be proposed by their select boards, Cavendish and Plymouth. Those members would be proposed by their select boards and then appointed by our select board. The other change would be the water and sewer. Right now, your trustees are your wastewater commissioners, and there is a separate board of water commissioners. We are proposing consolidating those into one board, a water and sewer board, which would be 3 members to start. Within the charter plan, we are also giving ourselves the authority to say that we don't need to amend the charter, but by a simple vote at next year's town meeting, for example, we could expand that board as well to 5 members. We wanted to establish that board and allow them to get their feet off the ground, and then after they have established themselves, decide whether they want to ask the select board and the town to be a 5-member board or a 3-member board. Those are essentially the only changes, I think, that we are proposing in this plan to the way that we function now. Otherwise, any changes from the current charter are just updating language and bringing us in line with how we actually operate. If that makes sense.
Yes, Miss.
Alice Nitka, I'm a resident of the town, not of the village. What I've been concerned about all along with the proposed merger is the sewer plant, and no one has been able to say exactly what the full capacity capacity of the sewer plant is, and how many more homes could hook onto the sewer plant in its present state. The other thing is, I know there's the proposed new land being basically given to the town, that's sold for $1 to the town, to relocate the sewer plant on the Ludlow development for land previously owned by them and about to be given to the town for $1. And would that be a larger sewer plant? I mean, so many of these things seem to be unknown, that it's hard to know how many more homes, if the merger takes place, and will be basically, I think, entitled to hook onto the sewer plant, what would they pay, to get them onto their home or whatever, because the Ludlow and village residents or homes will all be the same. It won't be as it was previously, that, just serving the village and some other places that have been allowed to hook on. So I think that hasn't been fully explored and should be before the vote about how that's going to happen. So that's a big concern I really have is about the sewer. I'm also a bit concerned about losing competent people who are on board now and, will be basically gone. So I'm concerned about a lot of power in few people's hands. Not that the job hasn't been done, but there's a lot of, I think, very important work that has been done in the past. Certainly, don't dismiss what the village trustees have done.
Be broomed out, basically, if I understand it right. So anyway, that's, I am concerned also about the electric light department, which is a valuable entity, but it sounds like a lot of things have been addressed with regard to that. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can take a stab at that. Thank you, Mrs. Nitka. I know you raised that same concern at the town meeting, or town version of the public hearing. And we did do some of our homework. The existing wastewater treatment facility allows for, and we're permitted for 1,050,000 gallons per day of wastewater. We're currently at 30% capacity. So we have a lot of room for stuff. To give you a little bit of an idea in terms of how much we do manage out of the wastewater treatment facility in one of our highest months, which is January normally, we treat 9.8 million gallons of wastewater in 1 month. That's about 2 million gallons more in 1 month compared to last year. So hopefully that answers your question, Mrs. Nitka.
And the relocation potential?
The relocation potential, if we can seek federal funding for that, would have this, we would be permitted to start at the same capacity levels.
And it would be a modernized plant. When we met over the summer with Senator Welsh at the affected wastewater plant, there was mention from our wastewater director that we have a system that has now been expounded upon over 20 or 30 years, however long it's been there, quite substantially. So a newer plant would, you could do more with less, I guess is how I understood it.
And we did make the property purchase for $1 last week, right?
We did. The Ludlow Economic Corporation did deed that land to, the Ludlow Economic Corporation did deed the land to Ludlow, sold it to the town for $1. And that's approximately, the deed was signed and notarized last week.
Mr. Bates?
Just a point. Whether we merge or don't merge, it has nothing to who hooks onto the sewer. Anybody can hook onto the sewer now with the permission from the sewer department. It doesn't matter if we merge or don't merge, am I correct? So somebody from the town could hook on with their blessing.
That would be my understanding.
That's correct.
And the ones that don't have it in the village could hook on if they choose to.
Yep.
Correct.
So it has nothing really to do with the merger. Nothing changes with the merger.
No.
The
We,
connection requests wouldn't necessarily.
It's still a request that has to go through sewer and
Have to
water.
go through the
Yes.
wastewater.
Yep.
almost every meeting, we okay 2 or 3 houses to either increase their sewer or to hook on that are by the system. It's-
Should I speak to that?
You can.
Past history has not been that just anybody could hook onto the sewer. You know, if whoever gave permission, it was not simply an automatic, even if you paid, if you were outside of the village. I mean, there were special exceptions that took place, of course, for Jackson Gore to get them all on the sewer and you know, charge impact fees, et cetera. But it certainly, historically, has not been that you could simply, if you were in the town, get on the village sewer.
No,
It has been my experience.
you have to come to the sewer board and we have to okay it, yes.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, that,
It's not automatic.
no, I mean, you'd have to get permission,
Yep.
but the people in the town couldn't go and be thought that they would get on single-family homes, that's for sure. Unless, I mean, maybe, and I don't want to say this, maybe there was some favoritism or something once in a great while, but generally speaking, they were not, it was owned by the village and it was for the village, and in order for somebody else to get on, I mean, we had a huge issue in the town when Jackson Gore was allowed to get on, and which was a very good plan to not have all that sewage, you know, coming down the mountain. And there's separate, and I think a couple other places up there is certainly a good plan. But for just generally people, you couldn't just go to the board, it's my understanding and experience, that you could even pay and get on. You know, it was like, so I think there's a big difference there in terms of equal ability now, if the merger occurs, for people to get on and come to the board. But historically, that was not the case, in my understanding. So just a thought on that. I'm not wanting to start an argument about it or anything, but.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Just mostly a thought, I guess, to Alice's point and to Scott's point too. The one change really with this is that right now you are our wastewater commissioners. So these connection requests, like Alice is talking about, are voted on by 3 members of the village. And, you know, I can't speak to exactly what happened when certain people were denied in the past, but I imagine that there may have been some favoritism based on village residency because the voting members of the wastewater board were village residents. And so one change with this merger is that the water and sewer board will now be a board of the town. It doesn't necessarily have to be current ratepayers. It won't be village. There will be no ties to the village because there is no village for which to draw those lines around who, you know, which residents are. And so I think, I mean, there was a lot of discussion in our meetings on the merger plan committee about whether we wanted to make ratepayers the persons who are eligible to be members of these boards. We ultimately decided not to put that specific language in the plan, and so if the merger were to pass, then any resident of the town can now be a member of the electric commission, and this new water and sewer board. I just think that is an important change to think about.
Thank you. Mr. Bates?
Solitude, 200 units, is on sewer. Winter Place, 274 units on sewer. Kettlebrook, 66 units is on the sewer. South Face is now on the sewer. So they typically let a lot of non-village people on the sewer already. I'm just trying to make a point that there's a lot of them on it, and merging's not going to change that either way. I just don't want that to be part of not merging, because the merge is very important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Brandt?
Michelle Brandt, Orion Avenue. An observation, because I like to state the obvious. There's been talk of merging for, I don't even know how many years, but it's been a bunch that we've been off and on talking about merging. So, and Penny's been in her position for a month and a half or something. So
Feels like a couple years.
I just 6 weeks. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Couch?
Good afternoon, Alan Couch on Meadow Street. I'd like to say that this has been a long time coming, and I think it's a great idea. I've been stumping for it for many years. Now I won't have to get up at town meeting and say, let's merge. I do have a question about voting on the merger. Do the town and the village vote separately? Is it just one, if people in the village don't want to merge, is that something that can come to fruition, or is it just all the registered voters in town vote? And I don't want a hostile takeover of the village, but I just was curious about the process in which this gets voted on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Couch. It's my understanding that residents of the town of Ludlow will have one vote. Residents of the village of Ludlow will actually have 2 votes, because they are a village member and a town member, tax-paying members of both entities. So they get 2 votes. Mr. Nicole, would you like to expand on that?
I think you, if I remember, I don't remember, both bodies have to pass. So the village residents, and Justin's right too, it was this weird discussion we had with the lawyer that we had hired to help us write this plan, that village residents will get 2 ballots. They'll get to vote twice on this. But the village, their village ballot, they will be counted separately. The town ballots will be counted separately, and the town has to pass this, including the village residents that vote. And the village residents also have to pass on the village side. So both bodies have to pass and agree to merge, and then, the village people will get to vote twice.
So the vote's on 2 different days, if I understand it right.
It's my understanding that it's on Tuesday the 24th for
It's on the
both.
same day.
The village is going to vote on town meeting day too.
The village is going to vote on our town meeting day, which is Tuesday, correct?
Tuesday, March 24th.
Is it
Both
is
will
our
vote.
Village meeting.
Village
day.
meeting.
Yeah,
Village
town
meeting
meeting
day.
day is the 3rd.
Tuesday, Tuesday, March 24th. Village will vote. Town will vote.
So it's not on town meeting day,
It is on village meeting day.
it's on village meeting day.
Correct.
And that's because of the stringent Vermont state statutes that we had to have so many weeks in between the hearings Not, I mean, it's just like,
So my last question, hopefully, is currently, are our tax rates, property tax rates, the same for village and town?
They're slightly different.
Slightly?
Yeah, I believe the tax rate is, I don't have them in front of me, but my village, I think, was slightly different than my town one this year.
And so that's going to be like
it will be
equalized?
one.
Yeah. So, without getting, I guess, too far into the weeds, we have a CLA rate that has to be audited, and when the merger happens, the CLA rate comes in, which is the common law appraisal, common list appraisal.
Level of assessment. I believe it's
CLA.
common level of assessment.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll be completing that, and then if the merger does go through, the budgets subsume, and then we get a different tax rate from the state.
Okay, and this is all would be effective July 1st, 27?
27 fiscal year.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I'm sorry?
How are you going to keep all these ballots, since there's different kinds? How are you going to keep them straight, and where do we get them? Do we go down and register to vote, just like usual?
You'll have folks up here that will check if you're a village member or a town member, and they'll give you the ballot if you're a village member, just like usual. I'm sure there'll be 2 different boxes. I'm
Is there going to be absentee?
I'm unsure. I'd refer that to Ms. Wu.
That's a good question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of question for the look, obviously, but my understanding would be yes, there will be an absentee process.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see.
I don't believe there's any hands.
No, there isn't.
Any other questions? Mr. McCall?
Just on process and timeline, I don't know if I made this point at the town portion of this meeting, but yeah, I think it's important to think about. And Ms. Wu kind of touched on this a bit too, but we are, in some ways, I feel like this is a bit of a Groundhog Day thing. We had sort of kicked this process off, and then we had to restart because of warning. The state statute on doing this is very clear and very strict. And so we have to warn this hearing that we're at now so many days in advance of having it. There has to be so many days between each hearing. There has to be so many days between each hearing and before we vote, and all of these different timelines. And so we needed our lawyer, the attorney that we had hired to help us write the plan, had to write us up a schedule just to help us keep straight when we needed to post agendas and post notice on this to make sure that we were following the letter of the law. And so we were not able to hold one of the meetings on the timeline that we wanted to originally. And so we wanted to have this vote back in November, I think. We weren't able to keep that timeline, and so then, Brendan left, and so we started kind of over again with Penny, and, so that's why we're here now, really, and that's why we're kind of stuck in this March 24th timeline, because it's all defined very clearly by state statute. And so after this merger vote, we will, assuming it passes, both, the town and the village, and we approve a merger, then there is a certain timeline for reconsideration where somebody would technically be allowed to, to gather a petition, get 5% of eligible town to petition to reconsider the vote and go back. And within that reconsideration phase, we're not allowed to, act on this. And so that's why, even though we will vote on this and we'll know that night whether it's passed or not, it's still, the merger plan itself still needs to go to the legislature. And with the reconsideration phase, they really likely won't consider it until after the reconsideration phase has ended and there is no chance of a reconsideration vote. And so that's why now we are sort of stuck in the July 1st, 2027 timeline. It is theoretically possible that they could consider it before then. After it, again, assuming it passes the town and the village on the 24th, the legislature will consider it. They will likely make changes. Alice can tell you they nitpick. They are going to check every comma. They're going to check every semicolon. They're going to want to make changes. They're going to want to make changes just to say that they've made changes and they've put their mark on it. And so there will be members of the select board and the trustees, I hope, that will be going to the legislature to negotiate on our behalf. And, so that will be like another part of this process, is just trying to make sure that this is shepherded through the legislature on a reasonable timeline on its own. Assuming the vote is positive, I can't imagine a situation where the legislature would not consider it, but the stronger the vote, the more of us that vote, the higher the turnout is. Those are all indicators to the legislature how serious we are about this and how much we want this. And so turnout is really important. And showing up to vote and voting, in a strong showing in one tool, to favor the merger would be a very good indicator for the legislature to pass this and to pass this quickly. I just think that's an important thing to think about.
So what do we need to get out of the vote?
These public hearings? This is as many people as normally come to public village meetings.
But how are we going to get people engaged in voting?
I actually spoke with Ms. Wu about this last week, and I thought we should do a pros and cons and why we think it's a good idea to move forward with the merger in the town newspaper, start warning it on the newspaper.
How about some placards? We come on, people, wake up.
Yes. I think now's probably the best time. The reason why, grand plan is not to change much. We're going to add a couple commissioners to the electric board. The select board is going to remain at 5 with the caveat that we can adjust it if the townspeople see fit in the future without having to recharter. So hopefully we can get the word out. I know this is kind of one of the bigger issues in the town meeting, so I implore everybody to talk about it with their neighbors as well, because word of mouth is the best form. So thank you guys for coming here and lending your opinions and asking your questions. It's important.
Any more?
I'll just say a couple more things if I could, Bob.
Yes.
So to me, the takeaway is that the merger modernizes our ways of accounting. What we're doing right now is very antiquated, and it just does not make sense. So it's a common sense approach to how we're spending everybody's tax-paying dollars. And I think there will be some other efficiencies realized as we go through the merger. Wastewater treatment facility always seems to come up, and from the past notes that y'all managed last year, the saying goes, you pay to play, and that is the case with whether you hook up to the water system, the existing water line, or the existing wastewater line that we have within the boundaries of Ludlow. If you hook up to that current system, you pay for that. So we do have taxpayers within the village that are not on wastewater, nor are they on water, drinking water. They don't pay. If there are developers outside of those boundaries, there is a process in place where they can come forward to request to hook on. There is a process now for people within those lines, those boundaries of those water lines or the sewer lines, to come in and fill out an application, seek the approval, and then pay your fee. Those are the three pieces in my mind of what that process looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I thank everyone for coming.
Thank you folks very much. Great questions.
Thank you.
Talk to your neighbors.
Yes.